SVC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
Hi everyone, welcome to iGaming Daily. So this week is shaping up to be quite a big one for the gaming sector. As ever, the unstoppable force that is mergers and acquisitions in this industry is showing no signs of slowing down in 2025. So what we've seen this week is that Intralot, the Greek multinational B2B tech firm, has signed a transaction agreement with Bally's, the big US conglomerate. Obviously, everyone, I'm sure all our listeners know who Bally's are, which will see it take over Bally's iCasino technology division, Bally's Interactive International. So we're just going to talk about, what does this mean for Intralot? What does this mean for Bally's? And what does this mean for the gaming sector overall? So I'm Ted Orme-Claye. As usual, I'm joined by Ted Menmuir to have a chat about this topic on the iGaming Daily podcast, sponsored by Optimove. Ted, how's it going? You all right? I think I was on leave last week, so it's been a while since I've been in the studio with you. How's things been?
Good to be back. I had a short break abroad and came back to news of kind of more M&A plays in the industry, so pretty standard.
Yeah. Where did you go abroad, by the way, Ted? I never asked.
I was in Barcelona, then we drove up to Provence, and my God, Europe is boiling. It is very, very dry out there. So to our audiences, make sure you're putting on your suntan lotion.
Yeah, I was in Greece and I can, give a similar review. Ooh. Yeah, that was roasting hot as well. Lovely place though, great food, great drink, great people. Anyway,
it's a good connect to this story.
yeah. Actually, yeah.
By the way, we did not. We did not work that one in.
Yeah. I didn't even clock that. Thanks, Ted. So subtly and smoothly introduced by myself on the topic of Greece. Intralot, a Athens Stock Exchange listed company, one of the bigger betting and gaming tech firms from Greece, have, of course, secured this deal this week, quite a big one. So what does this mean for Intralot, Ted? How significant a moment is this for the company? Because, obviously, from the outset, looking at this, it seems like this is quite a big expansion of their technology capabilities. They've talked a lot about what their ambitions are following it. But, yeah, from your perspective and what you've seen on it, how big a moment is this?
Oh, this is huge for Intralot. And I think it kind of puts its footing much more on the kind of B2C side. And it's moving away from its kind of heritage contracts, where it's kind of B2B management and lottery systems. So I think that it gives it kind of a new platform, new systems and new solutions to build upon. However, I think kind of the integration is going to be key here between Bally's Interactive and Intralot. And I think that they got a strong year to kind of plan out, and we'll see what they build upon by the end of the year. So, they're quite coy in terms of what the actual kind of deal elements are. I think that we're going to see that further down the line.
Yeah, it was an interesting announcement to read through yesterday. I think partly from my perspective, one of the things that stood out to me was that Intralot seemed to be eyeing up a bigger footprint in the US following the completion of this transaction. I think they're expecting to complete it in sometime in Q4 this year.
Yeah. And
they seem to think that US lotteries, state lotteries, are going to be quite a big target for them. I think they seem to see a lot of value there. Given the US lottery sales and the revenue from that, numbers in the billions, I can kind of see why. I think obviously it's getting these deals with state lotteries and government-backed lotteries can often be tricky, though, obviously, because the contracts are so long, right? Is that would you agree with me on that one? These contracts are often 10, 15 years, so you might find yourself waiting around a bit for an opening to come up. Do you think?
There's positives and negatives, and one of the things is that, look, Intralot already does have a presence in the States in terms of its lottery contracts. So even if it maintains those lottery contracts, I think it can add on Bally's Interactive components on there. One of the things that they highlighted is that they got new kind of inventory contracts coming up with Hasbro that will certainly add to their kind of game portfolio for lottery providers. And I think you're right that yes, lottery contracts are hard to shift. However, if you secure one or two, you're there to make kind of multi-million-pound gains on that and really add it to your EBITDA. It's an ambitious deal, but I think when it comes to these kind of high level, like, billion mergers, man, you have to have some vision. You have to have some, you have to be really active about where you think you're going to grow. And I think they are going to be pushed hard on those US lotteries. There's been a lot of ruptures in that market, as you know, as we reported on, especially with Texas, and what that kind of fallout displayed to the public and to the state operators. Maybe that kind of spearheads a change in the US, and a couple of big state contracts get revised.
I think another interesting element there, I think you just touched on it as well with the Hasbro deal and the provision of games to these lottery operators, is that a lot of lotteries all over the world, but especially in the US, I think we've seen a lot in recent years in response to the rapid expansion of the gaming industry, the betting industry, I should say, following the repeal of PASPA. A lot of state lotteries are wanting to stand out and compete with these new operators that are coming into the state, aren't they? And as a result of that, I guess there could be some opportunities to provide these lotteries with the kind of iGaming and iCasino products that they might want to compete with a lot of other licensed operators. So that could be a potential inroad as well.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't thought of that. And, especially kind of following like Jessica Wellman's work on SBC Americas, one thing that's kind of standing out is that the US is kind of a crossroad, not necessarily just for online wagering, but more for kind of online gaming and its platform, especially related to the casino product. And I think that maybe a lot of these lottery operators saying, well, if they're getting rid of sweepstakes, maybe we can add kind of better gaming components to our retail service for lottery, scratch cards or instant win games. I think that's kind of a glaring opportunity in the US.
And I think as well, you mentioned with Texas, I think a lot of state lottery operators in America right now might be looking out there and thinking, we want to make sure we've got a partner on board who we can trust, who has got a good record, and perhaps by acquiring this division of Bally's, which is obviously a legacy American brand, that could help Intralot in that respect, I guess, with more familiarity with the American market, with the different stakeholders involved there, with the different lottery companies, with customers above all, I guess, as well. That familiarity could definitely help because, I mean, like you said, we've seen, particularly in Texas, a lot of political pressure on the lottery systems, a lot of questions raised about it, about the integrity of it, about the integrity of its third-party partnerships. Obviously, a lot of that centered around the lottery couriers, but the spotlight has been cast wider, and I think that adds another quite interesting dynamic to this whole conversation around lotteries and the commercial opportunities around them in America. Just one more thing on this deal, Ted, before we get into our break. So for some people, this has kind of been a bit surprising, hasn't it? Because of Intralot and Bally's are obviously two quite different companies in some respects. What do you make of this? What have you observed in this regard?
I think you got to kind of break down the stakeholders in this deal. So there's Bally's Corp, Intralot, and Intralot Interactive. I think in the case of Bally's Corp, this deal, they really needed this deal to, in particular, really kind of lessen those debt pressures that they have. And this is a company that's gone through, I think, 2 years now of losses. In terms of Intralot, I think that they needed something to really bolster their engine. It's been quite a stagnant decade for Intralot, so I think they had a tough time during COVID. They returned to kind of stable earnings 2 years ago, and I think that they've been looking for a buy to get them back into to refresh their services. One of the things that is mentioned is that, Intralot really do have an international profile. They're active across 15 markets. They've got key contracts there. And I think that they really think that they can add GameSys components, especially GameSys exclusive contracts on content out to their partners, be it in Croatia or Malta or where they service lotteries. So I think they've got a lot of upside to benefit from that. I also think that Intralot might be a better fit for the GameSys content than under the Bally's Corp. I think Bally's has always been a very much so a bricks and mortar casino enterprise. I think that Intralot, does carry a more kind of digital or more kind of innovative kind of profile than Bally's Corp.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an interesting perspective. Like you say, Bally's is historically like a Las Vegas, Nevada bricks and mortar enterprise, isn't it? That's their legacy. That's their foundation kind of business, I guess. We're just going to take a quick ad break and then we'll be back to talk about this topic a bit more.
SBC Leaders connects the gambling industry's top-tier operators and associations to share the best ideas, collaborate on solving the biggest issues, and push innovation throughout the betting and gaming industry. If you're an operator and want to join the discussion, visit sbcleaders.com for more information.
And welcome back to iGaming Daily, sponsored by Optimove. I'm Ted Orme-Claye. I'm here with Ted Menmuir, and we're talking about, of course, Intralot and the recent agreement with Bally's. Probably, I mean, it's fair to say, isn't it, Ted, that this has been the biggest M&A we've seen in the industry so far this year. We've talked a lot about what this means for Intralot. I mean, and we touched a little bit on what it will mean for Bally's towards the end of this. I mean, I think it's quite interesting that Bally's has been getting more and more beyond US borders over the past few years. The like you mentioned, GameSys, obviously they acquired that a couple of years ago. There was there's this deal here, and then not long ago they also invested in the Star in Australia, didn't they? I mean, what do you think their motivations might be here for getting involved? Like this is if you look at these three countries we just mentioned there, we've got the UK, Australia and Greece. These are three quite different and geographically spread out markets.
No, it's an interesting point of view. And I think this is where, we're going to go back to like the prospectus that's going to come out and see what their kind of market by market strategy is. And then again, this is coming at a time where kind of, hey, all PLCs are kind of branching out. I think one thing that does carry the favor of Intralot is that I think that they're going to face kind of less investor pressure being on the Athens exchange, rather than being kind of a US facing PLC where they're going to be asked, well, how can we not compete against DraftKings or Flutter? So I think like that is a lane where it's safer for them to be. And I think that they can be more strategic in what markets they select, without kind of that internal pressure of like, how you're performing against the bigger guys in the industry. Also, I think that the deal comes at a time where in the last 2 years, especially at the lottery level, we've seen so many, B2B technology providers kind of revise or downscale their technology services. So, talking about scientific games, and also this comes in light of IGT now becoming standalone, returning back to being a standalone lottery business under the Bright Star banner. So again, many ruptures in the lottery sector, but I think that the contracts and the playing fields are going to change remarkably in the next, by the close of the decade.
Yeah, that is an interesting point of, a lot of the changes on the B2B side of things could present a good opportunity for companies like these guys to get involved there. That's probably the timing of the deal with that probably makes a lot of sense. Now, just want to move things on a bit. That you spoke to the newly appointed CEO of this new division, this new entity that's going to get formed via the agreement just after the transaction agreement was announced. Could you give our audience, this is available on SBC News as an article, of course, we should plug that for you. Go there and check it out. Yeah, go and read it. Yeah. But, what was that conversation like? What did he have to say on the deal?
Well, obviously, I mean, it's a game changer for both companies, and I think they've got high ambitions. However, I asked them kind of questions of like, look, lottery contracts are hard to shift. So I think they're kind of being quite pragmatic about this. I mean, one thing that Robson can underline to us is that he is adamant, that this is a cash first very highly effective beta generating company, and that's how it should be valued, right? Also, the idea that, they're going to get contracts. Actually, one of the things he noted is that if you can just improve what Intralot have on the table at the moment, that's going to be effective for the business down the line, right? So you're talking about Intralot and its management services. If you can just add to that, the deal is a winner. Again, one of the things that he mentioned was that at an iGaming level, they're looking to enter 2 markets by the end of the year, and that they're looking at expansions into sports books. I think what makes GameSys a very kind of unique company is that how good they are at kind of integrating and actually getting products to launch. And this is from the development of their own content, but the fact that they've already proved this with the likes of Jackpot Joy and Virgin Games. So they do have a track record there. The problem is, can you repeat those partnerships in new territories? That's, I think, one of the kind of barriers that they're going to get to. Can they get another Virgin? Can they get another Jackpot Joy?
Yeah, that's thanks, Ted. That was a very thorough breakdown. There was a lot to digest in that one. So, as I said in the introduction to this, the M&A side of gaming is something that is constantly rolling on, right? I think there's not been a single year that I've been in this industry where there hasn't been some major mergers and acquisitions going on. Is this? I'm guessing then, in your opinion, is this deal announced this week indicative that the gaming industry M&A is just going to be carrying on as fast paced as ever in 2025?
I think the conditions are always constant, and I think there are so kind of many factors to what contributes to it, be it regulation, markets saturating, and just, also now cost controls, right? And companies looking out for just to gain an edge. I think that if you review the M&As in the past 5 years and what we created with these kind of giant gaming PLCs now, I think there's going to be kind of a lot of internal revisions. Look, I think there's going to be M&As across the board, whether they're small size, mid size, or at the PLC level. I think there's just too many kind of tectonic shifts going on in the industry, and I think that's just part of it. It's going to be like this for the next couple of years, and it keeps us in a job. So yes, I'm not complaining.
Yeah, no complaints. It gives us something to do. It gives us podcasts to record things about, doesn't it? Yeah. Obviously there's an interesting one. Our colleague Victor wrote about this the other day. There's rumours circulating that an Irish businessman is interested in acquiring the Irish assets of Ladbrokes, Entain's Ladbrokes, at some point. That's an interesting one to follow. Obviously, there's also been the rumours about a potential sale of Bet365. That was a lot of people I speak to from across the industry all were quite interested in that. Obviously, I know they're just rumours to begin with, but that would be huge, wouldn't it? That would be probably like the biggest sale in this industry at the moment. But
even you got to read what those rumours tell you. Again, okay, that view of Ladbrokes, right, and why it's under kind of speculation. It's clearly obvious because Entain are assessing kind of every dynamic to return back to profitability for their investors, right? I just think that when it gets to a point where we're talking about the big PLCs with the multi-brand portfolios, everything's under assessment, and in terms of even if you are, if you start to kind of stagnate within a market or within a certain segment of gaming, that brand can be up for sale. And again, just shift it out to the market.
All right. I think we're all out of time now. I think that's a good point to leave it on. I think we've kind of gone full circle there, haven't we? From started talking about the significance of M&A, and we've ended up talking about the significance of M&A. So yeah. Good roundup there. Ted, thanks so much for taking the time to speak to me about this one. Quite an interesting story, and one that we'll keep following as it unfolds, along with any other major industry mergers and acquisitions, of course. So yeah, thanks so much, Ted. Thanks to all our listeners for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News network or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.